Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to Cut from a Different Cloth. I am your host, Danny Parker, of course, and on today's show, we're starting off the new year, right? And we have motivational speaker Christian White here with me. So we will get into, he is the creator of the Listening to Learn series and from Single Cell to Single Dad series. So we will be talking with him. We have a lot to talk about. He has such a powerful message, and I really feel like with today's show, it's going a little differently. We're not gonna do what's the tea segment today per se, but we are gonna talk about, the biggest current issue that we have today with the Surviving R. Kelly series. So we will be dishing into that. In just a moment, we're going to go to a quick break, and then we'll be back with Christian and on to the Listening to Learn series. I am your host, Danny Parker, where Wendy meets Oprah, and welcome back to Cut from a Different Cloth. Happy New Year, you guys. I have missed you so much. Welcome back to Cut from a Different Cloth. I am your host, Danny Parker. Now, here we have with me, Christian White.
Hello.
Hi, Christian. How are you today?
I am excellent. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Thank you for being on the show. Now, you have Christian, guys, if you don't know, he's a motivational speaker around the greater Boston area, and he has the Listening to Learn series as well as From Single Cell to Single Dad series. Now, we will get into that in just a bit. But before the show, we were talking about, the biggest elephant in the room.
Yes.
And that being the Surviving R. Kelly series, basically with Lifetime. If you haven't seen it yet, basically it's the women who were dealing with R. Kelly, from the headlines of the sex tape and stuff, basically speaking out. It was from Sparkle to background singers addressing the Aaliyah marriage and stuff. So
yes.
It's been like a lot of commentary, mixed and interesting commentary. So,
Absolutely.
Christian, let's get into it. So what do you think about the victims and with R. Kelly and the theme of accountability by chance?
So there's a lot going on. There's no doubt about that, especially when you add in things like a lot of opportunity, a lot of money, so many different elements. Speaking strictly to the victim or the predator standpoint, the victims, first of all, are not to blame, in my opinion, for anything. A child is never to blame because all behavior, from everything I've learned, is learned. And with that said, even if a young teenage girl comes on to a man or accepts being approached by a man when there's a clear sexual overtone, it's still something that she was taught to do, whether it was through music, parenting, school, friends, whatever the case may be. A young person typically does not just creatively come up with behaviors on their own. It comes from somewhere. But ultimately, no matter what a child is asking for, begging for, showing you that they want attention for doing, as an adult, it is still on you to say, absolutely not, you are a kid, you need help. So strictly from a victim standpoint, for the girls, that's how I feel. From the standpoint of R. Kelly, I was a victim of sexual abuse myself for many, many years, from about the ages of 4 to 12. And this was repeated rapes, this was repeated sodomies, this was intense, very intense. And circumstances happened where I ended up being separated from this household where this was going on. Now, I could have easily turned into what was done to me, but I didn't. And I mean, obviously, on a lot of levels, I'm glad I didn't. So
with that, then, I'm sorry to cut you off.
Please, do you?
But no, with that, then, so if you're a victim
yes.
of abuse, that means you have one or two ways you can go, either to become an abuser yourself or to be an advocate.
No, you have different. That's too black and white.
Okay.
It's not just victim or advocate or perpetrator or advocate.
Yes.
Because there's middle grounds. You have some people who set up great organizations and foundations to help people, but in the background, there's stone cold freaks who do everything that they do, or go to other countries to sleep with young girls because it's illegal in America, or there's there's never a if or, there's a middle ground. And the difficulty with somebody like R. Kelly is when you have never addressed these issues, they begin to, the individual elements of it begin to evolve themselves. So it puts him further and further away from the original behaviors that were taught, that he learned, which means there's a greater chance that he probably will not address them.
So then, looking from a perpetrator's point of view, as far as him seeking out his prey, his victims, could it possibly be the girls that he seeks out mirror his actual abuser from when he was being abused as a child?
No.
Could that?
No.
Okay.
What they mirror is the innocence that he lost.
Wow.
That's what they mirror. They don't mirror the abuser, because a victim has never seen an abuser in their purest form. They've only known an abuser.
But what if your abuser is in your family? Because there has been some undisclosed rumors that it could have been his older sister that abused him.
Yep.
So it's just, but those are rumors, though. Those aren't confirmed, guys. Don't quote me on that. But so I'm saying, like, with it being teenage girls and her being the oldest, that's why they were trying to make ties to it, because he never said, but it was someone in his family. But because of that person's role, he couldn't say. So the victim that he goes to seek is girls who were, you know, like from 12 to 19 when he met his wife, Drea. She was 19 at the time.
Yep.
So that's why it's like, again, undisclosed rumors, but that's why I was trying to see
let me explain.
The connection.
Okay. So there's different sorts of connections. So ultimately, it's not necessarily a gender issue.
Okay.
It's the issue of lust. It's the issues of abandonment, mistrust. There's love, encouragement, belonging, abandon, whatever you might have you. These are all genderless things. Now, it can obviously be a situation where specifically a man does something, specifically a woman does something. I know for me personally, I had all this done to me by men. Now, when I was 16, I was like in the height of my gang life in terms of being on the street. So by day, I'm wreaking havoc in so many different neighborhoods. But by nighttime, I found myself walking the streets of the South End, West Roxbury, Roslindale, anywhere where there were white people that would never connect with the black world, in order to give myself to them, to be taken advantage of.
Oh, wow. Okay, Christian, I hate to stop you there, but we're about to take a quick break. We're going to take a quick break just real quick because we're about to get real deep. So we'll be right back, guys, and then we'll come back and recap what we're talking about now. All right, guys, that was a quick break. Now we're gonna get back into a quick recap of what we were just talking about, because we was getting real deep. So basically we're talking from Christian was opening up about his own past in connection with the Surviving R. Kelly Lifetime document series. So Christian, you wanna get back into the conversation?
Absolutely. So when I was 16, during the daytime, I was like ultimate gangbanger. Okay. At nighttime, when everyone else was going home, that's when the depression would kick in. That's when I would find myself alone again. So I would walk the white neighborhoods at night, and I would give myself to old men. And in essence, try to find that normalcy that was created for me throughout my whole entire childhood, because I missed it to a degree. I wanted my life to be what it was. And there was eventually the street life went out, because I ended up being supported more, loved more, appreciated more, even though it was through violence and doing more of it. And so eventually what ended up occurring is once I couldn't reconcile the two worlds, so I couldn't be super gangbanger and then deviant at night.
Okay.
So there had to be a choice, and I chose to go with the violence. But to bring it back to what we just spoke about in terms of victim seeking or predator's eyes, victims and predators have a different yet a similar lens on when they look at people. And I brought this up to you earlier. It's like a news anchor who has a pair of glasses on or a lens to spot a good story. It's no different. Whatever your passion is, whatever your calling is, you innately have a way of spotting it.
Because it's like that third eye.
That third eye. And these third eyes are created because behavior is learned. So when I say that, it could very well, his sister could have very well did something. I don't know. I don't know the intimate details, and that, those are just rumors. But the reality is something was done to him. He's doing something now, and he needs to be accountable for what he's doing now, because when it comes down to it, he's a grown man luring young women.
Right, going up to high school, that was said in the, I was like, whoa, like a producer. He said, yeah, seeing him like by the gas station, seeing R. Kelly going to high schools, like, why are you hanging out at high schools with teenagers? Like, that's not what grown men do. And R. Kelly was at the time, in his 20s. So I'm in my 20s, I don't hang around high schools. I don't even go back to my old high school. So it's just weird. Like, I don't know.
Well, let me stop you there. Let's not use words like weird, because when you understand the mind state, it's totally logical. It's not right,
but it's
logical. Because in the mind of somebody like R. Kelly, it makes perfect sense, because to get what you want, you need to be in a physical proximity to get it.
Okay. So with that being said, then, I can see the logic in him going to the mall, but the logic in going to a high school, though, like, it's still like, why are you there?
So I'll give you, so my opinion is this. The way I look at somebody like R. Kelly is he's constantly trying to find a way to recreate the perfect innocence, to build the perfect foundation. So let's say I meet, now generally speaking, 13, 14-year-old should be purer than a 17, 18, 19-year-old through the lens of society.
Right, through the music, through the videos.
Whatever, yes. The younger you are, the purer you are.
Right,
quote unquote. Meaning, so it's like his innocence was probably robbed at a young age. There's probably no doubt about this. It doesn't excuse, I'm just trying to offer explanations.
Okay.
But he certainly needs to be held accountable in many different ways.
Yes. Now, and this is also has been a topic, because I've talked to women who they are a fan of R. Kelly, where they was like, man, I should have been in high school, y'all. Like, hey, I would have gave him a time. Like, they were saying that. So there were girls women saying at that age, they would have gave, hey, if he came by my high school or my mall, we wouldn't have been talking about this right now.
Think about the mind state that they're looking at it from. These are probably black women.
Yes, these are black
These are probably black women who grew up in the inner city, who were taught to make very poor choices. Taught
Taught how?
Meaning that was the example they were given.
By who per se? Like a parent?
More likely than the parent, who themselves were taught bad choices.
I don't know, because there's some, with that one, it's a toss-up. Because I know some girls who had strict parents who was always there, on top of them, so they had to do the sneaky, going out, having to, sneak out and do X, Y, and Z because they were so sheltered. So it wasn't that their parents weren't around, it was just they had the restrictions, and being a child, you're either going to be rebellious or you're going to fall in line. So, but then you do have those parents who, weren't there. They could have had their own vices that they were doing, that they weren't coherent to what their children were seeing on TV or listening to.
But it's even more than that. Add in the factors of poverty, a mom that has to work 2-3 jobs and can't be at home. So the kids have to learn their own ways. There's a societal element, there's a cultural element to this.
Yes.
And so, and with that, what I mean is at some point along the line, the ball gets dropped by somebody that opens somebody up to a particular approach. For somebody like R. Kelly, he's a master at spotting that particular vulnerability. That's what he's a master at. And a big part of why he'll choose somebody that's pure versus somebody who's already kind of been through the ringer is because somebody who's been through the ringer had to already be put through that by somebody that was probably similar to him. Therefore, that creates a competition that he doesn't want to face. He wants somebody who has no foundation at all because he wants to be the one to build that foundation in that person.
So even if him and that person, let's say they go their separate ways, because one of the girls is like, this was the final straw.
Yep.
But if you're saying that he built that foundation, he'll always be there, whether he's there physically or not, because he's a part of her foundation.
Absolutely.
So then how do you get one from that? Or how do you build on it that it doesn't matter? Yes, he might have been a part of my foundation, but that's not what the final product was.
So what you're asking in essence is, if I'm controlled and I accept the control, how do I begin to break from that and become my own person?
Yes, even if you broke from him, like as far as,
So I'll tell you. So, me and my past, as I got older, I always asked myself the question, what is me essentially versus what is me that the abuse had done to me? I always struggled with that question, especially because the abuse was chronic and it started at an early age. So I never really felt like I knew who I was. As I got older and I began addressing my mental health issues, I understood that it's about reframing and reinterpreting. You'll never change your past. You have to find a way to love it. You have to. And the way that I love it now is I took my past, I looked at it, I worked through it, not over, under, on the side, worked through it. And I compared it to what I believe my gifts are, my God-given talents, if you want to look at it like that, what I believe my calling was. And I understood that I was being prepared for something greater than myself that I could never see until the moment I realized my own power.
And that led you to, so now recognizing that led you into the Listening to Learn, and then from Single to Sell to Single Dad series. In a way to...
So those are mediums. What it led me to was to the understanding that for some reason, I had been through so many different things that I was certainly in a position where I could touch so many lives on different spectrums. Now, the Listening to Learn series and things of that nature are one of my ideas of how to do that. But essentially, once I started reinterpreting my past to apply it to the future, because you only have one past, I began to understand that I was meant to be a public figure for the world to love, ridicule, hate, believe in, go against, everything. Okay. But no matter what, I could connect to you. And you could either see yourself in a different light, see somebody else in a different light. But either way, I knew that I was here to bring awareness on many different levels, primarily mental health.
Wow. Wow. That was amazing. That was amazing. Like the conversation that we really, the flow of the show was not supposed to go like this, but with the whole R. Kelly series, we got into that and really dissecting that a lot. The show's wrapping up now, but
okay.
right, I'm like the show's wrapping up now, but I'm glad that you were able to work through your past and to show that there's accountability, that even though the mixed reviews, it was just, it was a lot to see because a lot of people were victim shaming, well, she shouldn't have been like this or she shouldn't have been like that. But you're saying from the predator's point of view, she was pure, she was innocent. So how are we judging if you're not in that situation and you're judging the girl, but the predator sees her as the total opposite, that she was pure, she was innocent. That's the whole point of me going after her. So it kind of contradicts what people are saying as far as victim shaming. But what you showed me, and when we had our conversation before the show started, that seeing how to find the logic in it, not to, like, we know what's wrong.
If you want to talk about change and holding people accountable and bringing about results that lead to everybody involved, if possible, even the perpetrator, living a fuller life, then you need to look at it as objectively as possible. It's like in the streets. They say, look, we want the killers to stop killing, but they only ask the victims why they were shot at. You have to ask the shooters why they shoot.
That's true. And you have to get that point of view in order to make real change. That's true. No, that's true. You know what? Thank you so much, Christian, for coming to the show, for starting off Cut from a Different Cloth for the new year. Accountability. I'm glad that's the first theme of the new year because a lot of people need to take accountability. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I hope to have you on the show again in the near future of this year. And also, but on the next episode of Cut from a Different Cloth, we will have the ladies of Ambitious Inc. Incorporated coming through the show. So I am your host, Danny Parker, where Wendy meets Oprah, and this is Cut from a Different Cloth. Thank you so much, Christian, because your message is